Hey, vinyl community, how's everybody doing? Hope everyone had a good week. I always say that, but I do hope everyone had a good week. And I hope everybody is keeping your head above water, and I say that almost literally, because here in Central Texas it has been a living nightmare weather-wise. It's been raining every day, sometimes up to 8 inches in a single day here. So it's been a very, very unusual week, this past week. Lots of flooding here in Texas, as I'm sure most of you know who watch the weather reports and all that good stuff. So anyway, I'm fine. No damage really here. Did lose a tree. Had some gutter damage when the tree fell. But nothing major, compared to most. I think I feel pretty lucky. So overall, we just hope to dry out a little bit, and certain parts of central Texas are still expecting a lot of rain, so it's certainly going to contribute to the flooding. We need the water. It's been a drought here for the past 3 summers, but we're getting it all caught up in one big swoop. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a better weather where you are and had a good week this past week. This week I'm going to talk about, in my music collections videos, I'm going to talk about an artist that I'm really, really crazy about. And, I suppose I could have taken the easy way out and just talked about the band that he is primarily known for. And you all know who this guy is. I mean, Lindsey Buckingham is a world-class musician and has contributed to Fleetwood Mac for the better part of, 40 years nearly. So you know who Lindsey Buckingham is, but not a lot of people have paid particular attention to his solo career, and that's what I'm going to focus on today, is his solo material, because it is really outstanding. And if you haven't taken the time to get to know Lindsey Buckingham's solo work, and you're a fan of what he's done with Fleetwood Mac, I really would hope that this video would inspire you to go check out some of these albums I'm going to show you. There isn't a ton of stuff. There's, I think, about 6 albums to show you, and his output is slow, but what he does put out is amazing, and it does stand the test of time. And really one of my very favorite artists, especially after you see him live and you see the passion that he puts into his performance and the meaning behind the songs and how it has changed over the years. Some of the stuff he used to sing about has taken on a whole new meaning. So I was very fortunate enough to see him on this past solo acoustic tour that he did, I think in 2012 or 13, and it was a remarkable performance. It was just him, nobody else on stage, and a whole wall of guitars, and it was wonderful. So rather than go in ranking, there isn't a ton of material to rank, and I think what I'll do is just go in chronological order and just show you some of his stuff, and let you guys pick and choose what you want to go find out for yourself. I suppose everything started with Lindsey Buckingham, as you know, when he put an album out with Stevie Nicks before they were with Fleetwood Mac. Long time ago. I think this album is 1971 or 73. Let me see if it says. Yeah, 1973. And it's this album here. It's called Buckingham Nicks, and this is a probably bootleg copy of a CD that I've had for a very long time. I don't even know if there were originals of this CD ever. I don't think the record company ever released it on CD, so all of the CDs are in some way or shape or form a bootleg, but this is a really good bootleg, and it sounds great. This is the album that kind of launched them as a duo, and it was a very, very big commercial flop. But it's a great album, and it's a shame that it got so overlooked, because now it's one of the more sought-after grails out there. People have, got really excited to rediscover their music a long time ago, and it is easier to find on vinyl than it is in any other format, actually, because it was only originally released on vinyl, and this is an original copy. There's several different versions of this that have floated around. This is a gatefold version, and when I say original, I don't know if this is the original printing of this album, but I know it's an early pressing, and it is not a bootleg. It's legitimate, and sounds fantastic. So beware, there are some bootlegs of this album out there, and there is a non-gatefold version of this that I've seen. But bottom line, however you can get your hands on this album, it is definitely worth checking out. Gives you a feel of the sound that they really invented, I think, prior to joining Fleetwood Mac. Mick Fleetwood discovered these guys. I think they were on the same label or parent labels or something. And when this album didn't do particularly well, and they were about to be dropped before they could even record their second album. So, you know, when Mick Fleetwood discovered them and asked them to join Fleetwood Mac, it was a career-defining moment for Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. That they were able to join such a prolific band who had already been quite established, but they changed their sound entirely. Fleetwood Mac prior were a blues-based band, and then they were kind of a classic rock sounding, I don't know how to describe them. They had a revolving lineup of different singers and different personnel, but of course it was always Mick Fleetwood and John McVie. That's the Mac, you know, Fleetwood Mac. Of Fleetwood Mac, the rhythm section is what the band name was founded on. So those two members were the original members of Fleetwood Mac, and then Christine McVie, who used to be married to John McVie, had joined early in the career, and then they had a revolving lineup of other people since then. But when Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks joined Fleetwood Mac, it's, you know, the story from there. I'm not going to get too much into their career, but they changed their sound entirely, and they had massive, massive success and continue to have huge success. One of the biggest bands in the history of rock and roll when those two joined Fleetwood Mac. So it all started with this album in 1973, Buckingham Nicks. So do check that out. Definitely worth having in your collection. Then, you know, after Fleetwood Mac had their run of successes, they had, you know, Rumors, and they had the self-titled before that, and they had Mirage, and they had Tango in the Night. Lindsey Buckingham kind of said, you know, I want to go back and focus on my solo career, and that's exactly what he did. And he's released a series of albums in conjunction with Fleetwood Mac. They never really broke up. They were just taking hiatus. They kind of worked around each other's schedules, and Lindsey was primarily the main songwriter for Fleetwood Mac. He did most of the production work throughout, you know, from Tusk onward. And Lindsey also has some great solo albums, and that's really what I want to talk about mostly today. And it starts with this one here. This one is in 1981. This is called Law and Order. It is probably the weakest, actually, in my opinion, of his solo albums. It's not my favorite by any means, and probably my least favorite, honestly. But it did spawn a couple good songs on here. Trouble, of course, you guys know the song Trouble. That's probably what this album is most known for. But actually the second side is better on this album, a September Song and Satisfied Mind, and That's How We Do It in L.A. are really good standout songs. So I do really appreciate side B of this album. 1981's Law and Order launched Lindsey's solo career. In 1982, he did do a song that's probably, honestly, he may be most known for from his solo career for the soundtrack to National Lampoon's Vacation, Holiday Road, which whoever's watched that Chevy Chase movie knows that song, because it's, you know, anytime you take a road trip with the family, this seems to be the go-to song. It's a really cute, catchy song. I don't have a vinyl copy or any copy of that soundtrack to National Lampoon's Vacation, the original film Vacation, but Lindsey Buckingham, of course, is very well known, and maybe mostly well known for that track, Holiday Road. Then in 1984, it took 3 years, and there was a Fleetwood Mac album in between. But he released an album called Go Insane, and this, to me, is a really masterpiece album. It was way ahead of its time, and completely different than anything he had ever done with Fleetwood Mac, and really quirky and different and out there and disturbing almost. Really, really, really different album, and this is one of the highlights of his solo career, this Go Insane album. It is unlike anything he's really had ever done before. He really reinvented himself for this album, and the title track was a mild hit, I would say, in the U.S. Go Insane. Had a very quirky, different type of Thomas Dolby feel video for it. Slow dancing is great. This whole album is a masterpiece, in my opinion. I have it. There's 2 copies in here. I keep a sealed copy if I can get them out. The copy I have behind here is sealed, and that's how much I like this album. I've kept this copy sealed for a long time, and of course the one in front is a plain copy. But this is easy to find. You'll find it in the dollar bin. They're all over the place. So this is a great place to start for Lindsey's solo career. And you can check out some of his early 80s videos on YouTube as well. They still are available. So, wonderful album, and I highly encourage you, Fleetwood Mac fans, to check out that album. Then in 1982, he released, 1992, it took quite a long time. Go Insane was in 1984, and it took 8 years to come up with his next solo album, but there was Fleetwood Mac material in between all that. So it's not like he just went dormant and did nothing. But he released the album that I think is his best album, and when I say best, it's best by a long mile. It is so good that I consider it one of my top albums of all time. And I'm so happy to be able to show you 3 different versions of it. I've got the CD. This is called Out of the Cradle. And this is such a good album. I mean, it is just fantastic. Every single song on here is just a powerhouse. And you can tell he took his time with every single track and every detail and every note and what instrument and what guitar he used. And it is world-class stuff. And a lot of this material is still part of his touring life when he goes out and tours solo stuff. It's just so good. And then I do have the cassette version of Out of the Cradle. This sounds remarkable on cassette, believe it or not. This is on reprise cassettes, and it just sounds amazing either on CD or cassette. But this is kind of like the biggest piece of my Fleetwood Mac, solo Fleetwood Mac, of any piece of Fleetwood Mac related vinyl material. I do have a copy of Out of the Cradle on vinyl, and this is very, very difficult to find. And I do consider this a grail. I always do that with my grails, because I know a lot of people don't like that word, and I don't either. But if there was an album that I would consider a grail, this is one of them, because you're not going to easily find this one. And this happens to be a promo copy as well. So this is my big piece out of my Fleetwood Mac collection, is this album here on vinyl. And of course, for vinyl lovers, it sounds remarkable on vinyl, so I'm so pleased to have it on all 3, cassette, CD, and then of course the vinyl mostly. But just check out the album. You can probably stream it for nothing on YouTube. You can probably listen to it on any streaming service out there if you don't want to pay for it. But the CD's dirt cheap. The cassette's pretty cheap if you can find it, and this album, well, that's not easy to find. But I just want you guys to go out and hear Out of the Cradle, because it is a classic album that is so good, and it deserves your attention. From there, he released an album in 2006, so again, a 6-year span between albums, but active with Fleetwood Mac, and between all that, did some touring. This is another good album, Under the Skin, a little bit underappreciated album. Well, so was Out of the Cradle. I mean, Out of the Cradle, which I just talked about, only peaked at number 128 on the Billboard charts in the U.S. Did a little bit better in the U.K. at number 51, but shame, because I don't know what we were listening to in 1992, but it should have been that album. Anyway, in 2006, this did peak at number 80 on the Billboard charts, so it did a little bit better. And it's a very good album. This is a little bit more acoustic, very reflective. He had changed, he had gotten married, had a second family, had some young children, and it's a beautiful album. He dedicates a lot of these songs to his young children, and they're about the children, and it's very laid back and very acoustic sounding. And I appreciate this album. I just played this here a few days ago again in preparation for this video, because I hadn't heard it in a while. And I really enjoyed it. So maybe not a great place to start with his career if you want to go out and check out Lindsey Buckingham, but this is a very good album if you really enjoy some of the other stuff you're hearing. I would recommend going out and listening to this one too. Under the Skin from 2006. And then from there he did, he did 2 things in 2008, so he had kind of a gap here of nothing, and then he kind of got really prolific for a while. And I guess children kind of do that, new marriage, new children, they can inspire you, and he was very creative, and all these things kept flowing out of him. So he released a studio album in 2008 called The Seeds We Sow, and you can see the man has aged, quite a bit from the early photos I was showing you on Law and Order and Go Insane. Here's Lindsey a little bit more modern in 2008, and I think this album cover is purposefully done a little bit raw, unfiltered, a little bit unshaven, unkept, if you will, but it is a really solid album. Great Day, Precious Time, Did You Miss Me? I mean, this is a really good album, and I have played this a lot. This one isn't too hard to find on vinyl, I don't think. it's done very well. It's a great sounding album. So I do recommend that you take the time to get to know Gift of Screws a lot, because this is a great album. So that one you should be able to pick up on vinyl. In addition to that, he did a live CD that year, which is great, called Live at the Bass Performance Hall. And this is a nice deluxe package CD, DVD combo thing, so you can see him play live. And that's really when you get to appreciate Lindsey Buckingham the most, when you see him live. Whether it be with Fleetwood Mac, and he is currently touring with Fleetwood Mac. He's in the UK right now. They have a big reunion type tour. Christine McVie has rejoined the band for the first time in a long, long while. Someone's knocking at my door, so I guess I'm going to have to, oh, it's the mail, so. I don't edit these videos, so you're going to have to bear with me on that. But Fleetwood Mac is currently touring the UK. They just wrapped up a big US tour. Might come back to the US, I'm not sure. But Christine McVie has rejoined them for the first time in over a decade, so it's kind of been a big deal. But this is a great DVD, CD combo. He plays a lot of Fleetwood Mac songs on here. Never Gone Back Again, Secondhand News, Big Love, but he also has a lot of his solo stuff on here. It's a long concert, so it's certainly worth picking up, and I think if you're smart, you could probably pick it up in the used bin for just a few dollars. And then didn't take long, and he came up with another album in 2011, and this is another one of my favorite albums of that year, called The Seeds We Sow. This is the vinyl copy of it. I do not think this got a U.S. release, because I did pay quite a bit for this, for even brand new back in 2011. It was an import, and it is on red vinyl. I guess I could show you that. I'll show you the gatefold since it's opened. Just a nice picture of Lindsey playing an acoustic guitar. And I love the style in which Lindsey Buckingham plays the guitar. It's a finger-picking style, but it's very unique and different. You got to watch him on YouTube. There's all kinds of videos. He's done instruction videos as well that you can try to find on YouTube of his method of playing the guitar, and I think he's one of the seriously underrated guitarists out there. I strongly stand behind that opinion, because people don't realize what a fantastic guitarist Lindsey Buckingham is. But I will show you just briefly the vinyl record on red vinyl. Nice label there, the same of the album cover. But this is another fantastic sounding record. It's a double press, 2 LP pressing of The Seeds We Sow from 2008. And then finally, he did tour that album. This is the tour I went to in 2011, probably 2012 by then. This is called Songs from the Small Machine. And he explained that when he did the solo acoustic tour, he calls his solo stuff the Small Machine, and Fleetwood Mac stuff the Big Machine. You know, this is not a moneymaker for him, really. He does it because he loves it. And then, of course, you know, the Big Machine is Fleetwood Mac, which keeps them all going. But this, again, is a nice 2-disc CD, DVD package. I wish it was out on Blu-ray, actually, but it's not. And still very high quality and definitely worth watching. So 2011 was a pretty big year for Lindsey's solo stuff. And then there is another CD he came out with. It's unfortunately a download only in 2012 called One Man Show. It's a different version of his acoustic solo tour, and I did download it. It's one of the few things I did download, but I don't have anything to show you because it is a download. There's another live album out there on DVD with him and Lindsey Nicks. They did a small tour together, just the two of them. I don't have that yet to show you. I did just recently purchase a copy from a marketplace seller on Amazon that I can't wait to get, but I don't have that to show you yet. But, you know, I think I've kind of explained a little bit of Lindsey's solo stuff and hopefully inspired you to go check out some of his solo work. You know, there's just millions and millions of Fleetwood Mac fans out there, and every time I turn around, someone's posting something about Fleetwood Mac or excited about seeing him live, and it's just almost a shame that when Lindsey tours solo, that he plays very small venues and he doesn't seem to get a tremendous amount of attention or press or notoriety for how good he is and what he has contributed to Fleetwood Mac over the years and what a fantastic guitarist he is. Maybe the vocal style isn't everyone's cup of tea because he is a little bit breathy. He has a unique vocal delivery, I guess you could say, that it's very distinct, but it may not I wouldn't call him a great vocalist, but he makes up for it in songwriting, production, and his guitar playing is just amazing. So if you're one of the fans of Fleetwood Mac, which I know there are millions, do yourself a favor and check out some of Lindsey Buckingham's solo albums. And of course, I will say one more time that Out of the Cradle is, you can't start any better than that. So that might be a great place to get your introduction to Lindsey. Okay, well, it went 20 minutes today, not too bad, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. And next week I'm going to come back and do something different. Well, not really different, but I'm going to do another one of my Artist You Should Know vinyl updates, I guess you could say. Not necessarily all new stuff, but artists you should know that, again, kind of like Lindsey Buckingham, don't get the attention that they deserve, and probably need a little bit more of a push from us in the VC to get their name out there. So look forward to that next week, and until then, hope everyone has a great weekend spinning tunes, and we'll catch up with you real soon. Bye for now.